Hi, and welcome to Untapped, the TCG Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Marlette, your local game guy, and today I'm joined by Will. Hey, Will.
So,
We were just talking about the prices of the One Ring right now and how the One Ring, the prices just don't make sense.
the extended arts are the most cheap versions. The standard art is the second most expensive, and then the
Right,
stamped promo version is the most expensive. It's
right.
weird.
Yeah, those pre-release ones oddly go. I remember when I bought my Esper Sentinel. I bought one of these with its foil with like the little badge down there, and you can't see my cursor. I bought like this version of that, and now I think it's the most expensive one for Esper Sentinel. I was kind of shocked by that. At the time, it was the cheapest though, so it's interesting to see that switched here. I know there was issues with the print run of a handful of cards, namely, I think Lotho extended art foils are just harder to find. I don't necessarily know why. That's just what I've been told. And I've read why from the people who have told me, and it still is just going over my head. But yeah, for some reason, based off of TCG players like average rate of sale, like the standard version is the most expensive next to the extended, next to the this art, the collage art. And no offense, I think the collage itself looks really good all together, but like the ring by itself, it just feels weird to have that hand there. I would want to alter this to like, oh, didn't you joke about having Homer reaching for the donut?
The donut.
That's exactly what I would want to do here. That would make this so much better. But that's sort of teasing our first topic. There's a few things we wanted to cover today on the podcast. Obviously, the thumbnail discussion being the two cards that are up for being banned. Everyone sort of jumped on board talking about this. I figure we should put our 2 cents in. We play competitive, so we're going to have the best opinion. But no, I mean, everyone's opinion's valid. I hope more of you join in on the discussion. That's the beauty and the nature of these live streams. It gives us all an opportunity to have a discussion. So please feel free to comment away on your thoughts of whether they should be banned, what should actually be banned. But so you guys know, we're going to be discussing the One Ring to start, not the one ring. We're not trying to jump in on the hype and act like we pulled one. I love have you seen all the videos of people like, there's some really good proxies out there, by the way.
I've heard about them, but I haven't seen them.
It's like, oh yeah, like apparently there's been hundreds of the one rings opened, and I'm seeing like, shorts and full-fledged videos of people like, did I pull it? Did we pull it? And I'm like, well, based off the number of views, I don't think so. But everyone's jumping on board. I want to discuss it for a separate reason, and that's because Will has worked on a script that I'm going to go over and film soon. That's discussing the 10 best legends for the One Ring. Because as it turns out, we did Will, I, and the One Mana Short group did a live stream gameplay recently, and I just slotted in the One Ring, just the One Ring proxy, to see if it was effective. I did not do anything else with the deck, and it was very effective. So I'm like, well, what if I like made a deck that was actually planned to just power out the One Ring? How effective would it be? So
After like 30 minutes of us brewing right after that stream.
Right. We gutted like 8 to 9 cards, and I think I want to cut Scrap Trawler too. It's feeling less effective now. But I gutted 8 to 9 cards, and I played it the other day in pods with Blue Farm, Kinnan, Krark Sakashima, Tivit, Dawnwaker, Bruised Tarl, and Thrasios. I didn't see Azurta. He did exile Azurta at one point. He exiled it, or he discarded it. But the pod was like a fairly competitive pod, and I won, of the games I played, I won 2 of 4 pods. So I want to jump into that and how effective it can be, and sort of tease at our next video, because I do think there's something to be said about a deck that's dedicated to just draw, like real draw. And I was drawing a lot. I was drawing a whole lot, and it got to the point where everyone was really scared of Oswald, and it was nice being respected that way, playing mono white. I will officially say, even one of the players who used to play Heliod, he said just stop playing it because he didn't like how like ineffective it was. I'm like, well, Oswald, you should play Oswald then. So there's gonna be that. Obviously, we're gonna discuss the banned cards, but before we get to that, I want to revisit the current ban list to just set a baseline for us to work off of. Will has it broken down pretty much, but we can give you guys that sort of preamble, and then we can look over the cards. I think that's fair, Will.
Yeah.
and then we're going to discuss the cards that are on screen for you guys. So it's Mirkwood Bats. I know. And Orcish Bowmasters. I don't play Pauper formats. I know that there's like Pauper Commander is a thing, but you know, is this going to like break that format? I really don't know. And this is where, honestly, again, where these lives are so useful, you guys can lend your voices if you do play those formats. So I'd be curious to hear. And I even see Legacy Ban Bowmasters, Yon, Andrew Myers. Haven't pulled Bowmasters yet. Hi. Oh, hey. Will, entertain them. Wait.
Oh, okay. So let's see. I would not be surprised if Legacy got a Bowmasters ban. But yeah, so I guess I'll talk about the One Ring and what happened on the live stream for those who didn't watch it. When Patrick is showing something off. What is that? Oh, that's his Orcish Bowmasters, isn't it? Hold up, I need to full screen.
Okay, so it's not my Orcish Bowmasters. So
okay.
So Alex, one of channel friend and a longtime cEDH player and drummer extraordinaire, he bought like 5 or 6 of these early pre-sale, like on eBay, and yeah, he got a really great deal on all of these. He sold a handful, and he's letting me borrow this for a short sketch I wrote called Power Creep. So I'm not actually playing this. I'm just using it for that sketch, and then it's going right back to him. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Well, I was just gonna talk about how well the deck did on stream, the Oswald deck.
Yeah.
When you're trying that out, but we can hop to the bands instead if you'd like.
Yeah. Oh no. I do want to discuss the One Ring minimally though. So yeah, feel free. We could go over some comments, and then I just want to go chat on the One Ring, and then move on to our ban list, because I know people are discussing it as like a potential just like draw utility, like, hey, is this just good to put in this deck? So to answer the question, you know, is this going to be the next Sensei's Divining Top to everyone's deck? It's not, right? It's not really the same thing, but I guess we could just start by looking at the card.
Right, yeah, so honestly, I think the One Ring might be better than Sensei's Divining Top, in my opinion.
I know. I feel that way too. I said that, and then I disagreed with myself as I said it, because while Sensei's Divining Top can be played out earlier, and it's good card quality, it's like you lose a card to draw a card. It is technically a draw. You'll see the Sensei's Top again, which isn't the worst thing in the world. Like if you're a Joy Realist or something that cares about historics or artifacts coming to play, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Also, to Donald's Angry and Justin Huber, nothing has been banned yet. It's the rules committee said that they might be banning Orcish Bowmaster and the Mirkwood Bats eventually, but they want to see how the community's thoughts evolve. So we're gonna know on August 28th, I believe.
I'm gonna be honest with you. From like the reactions people were making we had like 3 people on Bowmasters last night. The reactions people were making, they made it seem like it was going to be the best thing in the world. I think it was just excitement over the card, but like when it hit the field, it was grossly effective. It's as effective as you'd imagine. And I think the issue was not a lot of people were running removal. I think I removed Bowmasters every single time.
Bowmaster is the removal.
I was the one. Well, I mean, even just to redirect, we'll get into it in a second, but I did want to discuss the One Ring and its viability in cEDH though. So the One Ring for 4 generic legendary artifact indestructible. We all know what it does at this point. If it enters the battlefield and you cast it, you gain protection for everything until your next turn. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose a life for each burden counter. It's not every time you tap it. I think there was some confusion there, at least in the pods I was playing. Like people are just like, is this good? And sort of like just glossed over it. And I'm here to say it is good. When you tap it, put a burden counter on the One Ring, then draw a card for each burden counter on the One Ring. So much better in that sense. You're not going to be losing life every single time you go to draw a card. You're just adding up the burden counters, which you will lose life off once you've given it a rotation. So I've been playing it in Oswald, and as Will had mentioned, and I had stated off the bat, like it was very effective in a deck that was not tailored towards it. Now the deck's tailored towards it, and I can honestly say, at least in Oswald, that by the time I put it down and then I get to my next turn, it's drawing upwards of 3 cards. I usually have I'll have put an untap utility on the battlefield, just not only to ramp, but also to sequence with this. And it'll draw 1, and then it'll draw 2, so 3 cards. Next turn, it'll draw 3, and then it'll draw 4. So I draw 7 cards, right? Minimum. That's without using Oswald to find other untap effects. That's without finding, Unwinding Clock, which is in the deck now. That's without finding Clock of Omens, which is in the deck now. But it got to the point where, and we put Metalworker back in the deck because I'm drawing so many cards that Metalworker's grossly effective for storming with the One Ring.
Yeah,
And I was actually...
3-mana Omniscience is pretty good.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, like, how you put it, equating this to Necropotence, that it's, like, sort of the counter to Necropotence. You're losing life for putting cards in your hand, but the effect isn't quite the same in how it functions. And obviously, this does trigger things like Bowmasters and Smothering Tithe, which was out on the field, right? So, very similar in that vein. But yeah, it got to the point where I was drawing, like, upwards of 6, 7, 8 cards in a singular turn, at which point you're just winning if you have Metalworker out. So you have Metalworker, you have the One Ring. I had the Clock of Omens, so every single artifact I put down just became an untap utility to make mana, to draw cards, make mana, draw cards. And then you find your win con, right? So Staff of Domination, infinite mana. A Basalt Model with Rings of Bright Hearth, infinite mana. Walking Ballista, Halo Fountain. There are so many outlets and utilities to just do infinite things in that deck that once you begin an artifact storm, it becomes almost impossible to stop because I'm holding 30 cards, plus. So people were removing things, and it's like, well, I'll just Argivian find that back to my hand and recast it. Is that cool? And then continue the storm. It's grossly effective. I would say that I wouldn't say it belongs in every list. I would say it's a staple for every single deck, and that's partially because I want the prices to drop, but partially because I don't feel like it's going to be as effective in every deck. But I will say that it has only so few forms of interaction that people reasonably play, like bounce spells and maybe like the chance exile that hits artifacts. But elsewise, it just stuck. I don't think a single game it was removed from my board. Right.
Yeah, I will agree with you on that point, though, it's not going to be played in, like, every deck. I think there are 5 decks that use it very well, and I think that there's, like, 20, 30 decks that would be happy to run it, but it wouldn't be a new Ad Nauseam or new Necro or anything, but it would just be, like, good in a handful of decks, or it would be good in a good amount of decks, and it would be really, really effective in only, like, 5-ish, in my opinion.
But you like it better than Sensei's Top.
Yes, Sensei's Top is good at fixing the top of your deck and, like, curating a lot of things. I don't put Senseis in a lot of decks. I think Senseis is a very mediocre card.
Okay.
At least in comparison to other cEDH things, it's a good combo card. I'll give it that. But then you look at the One Ring and it's like, oh yeah, no, the One Ring's gonna let you greed out for a turn by spending 4 mana, protect you for greeding out, and then let you just slowly win the game through a bunch of draw.
Yeah. I mean, and what's nice with Oswald is that, you're also playing stacks. So, like, at any point in the game, I had a Grafdigger's Cage, a Aethersworn Canonist, a Trini Sphere, right? So I'm laying hate and playing for a mid-range, like, grind. And it worked pretty much every time. Yeah, I love the One Ring. Get hyped for our video discussing the 10 legends. Like, they're the ones that we find most viable for it. So if you too were interested in playing for it, like one of the guys, I think it was Shu, last night was like, yeah, I kind of just want an excuse to play the One Ring. I'm like, perfect. I feel like hopefully a lot of people want an excuse. So we're going to give you all the excuses in that upcoming video. Oswald's on that list. I would love to do a revised deck tech just discussing how to play for it in the various play lines. There are too many to count now, but it's fun. And maybe that should be a project we do in the future. But I'm going to go over some comments before I jump over to the RC. There's a list of resources down in the description. So if you wanted to read over the direct quote from the Rules Committee, that's in there. We're going to go over it momentarily. But I also linked an article in regards to Orcish Bowmasters from, I believe, Hipsters of the Coast. This was something that Sheldon Menery had mentioned in a tweet in concerns to a potential reason as to why, and like an argument as to why Orcish Bowmasters might be banned. I read the article. I don't know if I agree with every point, but it's also in the description. We won't be referencing that in today's live stream, though. But I do recommend you check it out. It was a good piece of writing. So yes, Adrian's right. It's not banned yet. Please don't be scared. It is up for discussion though, along with Mirkwood Bats. If you don't like Bowmasters or Bats, there's this like thing we call removal. I haven't played against Bowmasters yet, but bring it on. I ain't scared. Yeah, I've played a lot against a few Bowmasters already. And we could talk about it, I guess, when we get to Bowmasters. I'll get to my own personal experience with it before we go into the pros and cons and all that good stuff. Same pattern as Hull Breacher. Yeah, it kind of feels like it's fulfilling that same sort of pattern as Hull Breacher. Dockside is not always powerful. Huh. Well, actually, I wanted to get to the poll question as well, Will. I think what we should do is maybe touch on the June quarterly update, and then we can discuss. I'll end the poll on what you guys feel what should be banned before either one of these cards, or what should be banned just at large. It doesn't have to be these two. These two are things that are prevalent in cEDH, Thassa's Oracle and Dockside Extortionist. And that's what the discussion's about right now in the chat. But to start us off, this came out on the 19th, so a little while ago. But for the month of June, there have been no changes to cards. So far as the rules are concerned, the ring tempts you. This is a mechanic that on the surface looks a lot like venturing into the dungeon. In the past, we've had to make changes to Rule 10 to accommodate these mechanics. Unlike dungeons, though, this mechanic is tracked by an emblem. There are rules in place to handle this, so that's fine. Temptation's fine for Commander. General commentary. So apparently, and people were saying that Sheldon is like expressly against these cards and wants them gone. I looked at all his socials. I could not find an exact quote. If you have something where he says expressly that he wants to remove Bowmasters, please send it to me. I do think that commentary is maybe a little unfair. All I see is that we've been following the community's discussions and concerns surrounding Orcish Bowmasters and to a lesser extent Mirkwood Bats. With the help of the Commander Advisory Group, we'll be observing how and if those discussions change over time as people play and play against these cards. That's really it. That's really all I've seen. So we know that they're up on the chopping block. I think saying banned is very attention grabby and might honestly be true. I'm a little worried for Orcish Bowmasters, just based on its effectiveness. Like from what I've seen in games, I feel like it might not lead to the most fun quote unquote experience for some players. So we'll see what happens. But let's go ahead and end this poll. And I do want to have a quick discussion because I feel like we've all been chatting about it in the comments here. Red needs Dockside far more than anyone needs Demonic Consultation. Yes, Red Ram sucks. You use either rocks, treasure production, or rituals. So right now, what should be... So if you didn't see the initial poll, I was asking whether or not Mirkwood Bats or Orcish Bowmasters should be banned. And I think it was like 90 some odd percent, or I think it ended at 11 and 89% say... yes, it should be banned. No, it shouldn't be banned, respectively. So I asked the question, well, Thassa's Oracle, Dockside Extortionist, which would you rather ban? 54% of you, with 46 votes, say Thassa's Oracle. 45% of you say Dockside Extortionist. Will, thoughts?
So, I think Dockside is a closer card to be banned than Thoracle, in my opinion. But I will say, in the spirit of bans, Thoracle's probably closer than Dockside. I'm going to go into that when we actually cover the ban list things, because I'm going to say what I said to you before we started the stream. But Dockside Extortionist is 2 mana do something, and then in a specific scenario, 2 mana win the game with like another card. Thoracle is 2 mana do nothing, but then 2 mana win the game with another card. Thoracle's win is a lot easier to set up. Dockside can be counterplayed by just cracking treasures or not playing into it. But Dockside being able to actually be a utility card, even if it had no combo potential, is the reason why I think that it could be banned, because it is a combo card, but does not even need to be a combo card. Whereas Thassa's Oracle it's anti-fun. Like, it's just play card, win game. And I can get why it should be banned off of that, but Dockside is scarier than Thoracle.
I can agree with that. It's funny. We, so many games like we also had a Kenrith in the pod. Alex was playing Kenrith for a moment, and he did like the typical Dockside, kill Dockside, reanimate Dockside, Phantasmal Image Dockside, just to make a lot of mana. To be honest, like, he was making like 7 mana off of me, to be frank. So like I was part of the problem. All right. But the truth of the matter is, I know a lot of people say you can sort of walk around Dockside by constructing to not play artifacts or enchantments. And just even saying that seems like lunacy, because that's a large part of this game. Like, it could just be your wild growth. You know, it could be anything. It doesn't need to be the most valuable enchantment in the world, like Underworld Breach. As a matter of fact, Dockside probably would not benefit in that situation. If there was a UB on the field, that player would probably be winning. That might even be the Dockside player. But the fact of the matter is, Dockside just profits based off of the nature of the game. Thassa's Oracle does, like you were saying, it, you know, do nothing on entry. I mean, it's not nothing. It does do a thing.
Rigging the top 2 to like 4 cards of your library, to get 1 on top, is not relevant.
It doesn't.
Scry 4 is not a game-winning effect.
As a rare effect, just surface level, yeah, no, not as good as what Dockside is potentially able to do. I agree with you. I don't see the need to ban. I don't see the need to ban either of these cards. I know that there are some hurt feelings towards Dockside and like its effectiveness with other cards. Like, you could even just have things like Mayhem Devils to remove board states. Like, there's a lot of things that just combo in tandem with it that either are grossly effective for controlling the game off of mana generation, or win you the game, like you said, in a certain set of scenarios. Where Demonic Consultation and Tainted Pack are obviously a 1-2 card combo with Thassa's Oracle. It's fine. And I've seen people win like turn 1 just hard casting those things. Like, sometimes that just happens. And I mean, I guess that's fine. It has to be fine. If you had a counter spell, please rip it. Don't make it Pact of Negation. You know, that happens. I don't see necessarily the need for those things to be banned, but I guess it's
Agreed.
important for us to establish a baseline as to why things should be banned, or at least how the rules committee sees them. Now, I'm not a member of the advisory group, nor do I want to be. Never been asked. I don't even think I would have a fair assessment like over the wide range of Commander, because there is so much variance with this format. But I think we can try to establish a baseline by looking over what's currently banned today before jumping into our discussion of Orcish Bowmasters and Mirkwood Bats. So shall we try, Will?
Yep.
But before I jump over there, it's publicly known Sheldon, the leader of the Commander Advisory Group, his pet card is Dockside Extortionist, and it'll never be banned even though it's busted. He might just, well, they could ban it and he could rule 0 it in, right? But what's weird when they say rule 0, though, is that I feel like most tournaments follow what is established by the rules committee. So even if you wanted to rule 0, like, it's tough to make and play a list that, you know, essentially operates to find one card. Like, most of the demonic tutors last night went towards, I think, by and large, Dockside Extortionist. I can largely say that. So imagine rule 0ing to play that card and then not being able to effectively make those play lines in an actual tournament setting. It would be a little weird. Vegan Economist says, it feels like cEDH players are reacting to Orcish Bowmasters the way casual EDH players react to Stacks cards. You mean poorly? They don't like it? I get that. The Oracle is blue, so ban it, says Abzo.
Yes, flawless logic. 100% agree.
I agree with you too. Ban all the blue cards. No more blue in Commander. I can agree with that. Donald, you're wrong. Even if you recycle the one ring, it only gives you protection if you cast it, says Donald. I'm tempted to put in Duretti. Recycling the protection over and over and some draws pretty good. I just don't like the universes beyond. I got you. But you mean like...
Sadly, the one ring will not work, like Adrian said. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thassa's, Narumea, and Ghostly Flicker, says Donald. Oh, so you like Justin's Narumea list, maybe, or your own list. I don't know if you've seen our deck, but yeah, Justin liked Narumea quite a bit. The current ban list is insane, says Vegan Economist. I think on that note, it's fair to take a look at it. Yeah, who would ban Adriana's Valor? Am I right? So we're just going to poke around here and look at what's currently on the ban list and see if we can find any sort of through lines with these bans, right? Before we jump into that, though, you did have like a general guideline for us, right, Will? Like what we're going to see with a majority of these cards.
So I looked through this just to kind of familiarize myself and try to think of why every single card was banned on this list. And the 5 kind of categories that I found were the logical bans, which are the things that it's like the the dexterity cards that say like flip this card into the air and then have it land and then do something, or the things that are just anti or literally cannot be played in the format. So just one, the logical bans. Two, kind of the powerhouse and expensive bans. These are mostly the 99, or not the 99, the Power 9. So just the Power 9 cards got banned because they're ridiculously expensive and also extremely powerful. The only exception being Time Twister.
Yeah.
Um, Next is the, like, you don't get to play the game effects. Those have all been banned. Like, these are the immediately win the game effects. These are the take a really long and ridiculous turn effects, like Shahrazad, Paradox Engine, all these things that are kind of like non-deterministic loops, or just say game's done, GG. The fourth type is the format breakers. Anything to extort your life total or extort the fact that there's four players in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that just kind of says, "Oh, you're playing Commander, cool, win." And
Yeah.
this includes Luris, because, or not Luris, what's his name?
Lutri. Yeah,
Lutri. Because you're playing Commander, congrats, have a free creature.
Singleton
Yeah.
format? Oh, perfect.
Yeah. And then the final thing is the like hyper grindy, too valuable cards. And these I kind of disagree that they should be banned, but they are still there. It's like Primeval Titan and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think
So
Primetime's just right down here.
it's
We're gonna take a look at all of them. But
it's
sorry.
stuff that doesn't say you win the game, but it's stuff that says this will get you a lot of value and it will do some like annoying things that would make the game less fun. I can argue the fifth topic all day and say that all those cards should be unbanned, but those were the five that I bumped into. Those are the five general categories.
I think that's fits squarely with the philosophy that I've seen, at least, like with all of these banned cards. I'm gonna do that annoying YouTuber thing, and I'm trying to make it more of a point now to do this. But annoying a YouTuber showrunner Patrick here, if you're enjoying this content, feel free to leave it with a like and share, because it does help the channel grow. I've been saying this more and I'm actually seeing the results, so I'm just trying to make it more of a point, but I don't traditionally do this. I would have said this within the first 10 seconds if I remembered, but do please do that. It really does help this channel grow. If you enjoy this content, if you enjoy the podcast, feel free to share these with people. More and more people are listening to this podcast, and I thank you for that. I will be putting it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that other stuff soon. I've heard you. And I'm sorry that I haven't yet. I just spent days playing card games, okay? Yesterday was literally just a day full of me playing card games. My brain is like melted right now. But with that, let's go ahead and take a look at Ancestral Recall. This would be really good against Thassa players, right?
Yeah, make them draw 3 cards, just kill them.
Right, yeah, so for a blue, instant speed, draw 3 cards or force your opponent to draw 3 cards. Yeah, so a target is in there, so you could redirect this. It's obviously, I think this fits into the category of like grossly effective. It's power 9, but on top of the fact that it's also really expensive. So to be honest, when I sit down and I play in a cEDH pod, and you know, I don't question the competency of the player, but there is a difference to be found in your deck construction. If I have a Mana Crypt and I have a Mox Diamond and I have all these things that are going to generate better turn ones than you, that you just don't have access to financially, that does make an actual difference in games. And I've seen it time and time and again where someone will just like, it'll become a 3-person pod because someone just didn't have the budget to make those purchases, to make those plays, and that sucks. So I think this falls into that category, but moreover the fact it's just very grossly effective for 1 blue.
Yep.
Yeah,
You said everything there, yeah.
Obviously we can't have conspiracies. Balance is an interesting one. White is sort of known for like hand holding and doing nice things for your opponent, but then it's also the color of just destroying the shit out of everything. And what's weird is that its namesake is the one that's banned. So there's still a lot of other destroy everything spells. I think Ravages of War and those spells are still legal. Right,
Yeah,
we'll see.
We'll
see.
see. The reason why balance is banned is because you can go turn 1, play a land, play a Mox, discard 2 cards. You now have like 2 cards left in hand, one of them being balance. play out an Ornithopter or something, cast balance, everyone discard down to 0. So
That's
it's just turn 1, screw the game. That's the reason why
right.
balance is banned. I think it could be unbanned at some point, but
It won't
it's
be.
it's very, very powerful. It is very, very anti-fun. It will stop people from playing the game.
Have they ever reverted a decision on a ban?
Yes, we've had a couple things. Painter Servant was unbanned.
Yes. Okay.
We had Protean Hulk that was unbanned, and then Flash got banned in its place like a month or two
Right.
later.
Yeah.
So
Which made
we've
logical
gotten a
sense.
couple rotations on all of those things.
Hmm. Yeah, it's funny because
Also,
like Hulk wasn't really the problem with Flash. Flash was the problem with Hulk. But yeah, I remember that. I remember that being a whole thing. I think we talked about that on the channel even. Again.
and the worst part is I love Flash as a card just in general, but
Hmm.
I also acknowledge, yeah, Flash is not okay with Hulk.
Hmm. Sorry, wait, ban thoughts the dark sidelines lie down and really shake up the format, then Pat, your persist combos will really be king. Thanks. I need to bring it back. Interesting question on each card. Would you be okay if an opponent asked to rule 0 this card against you? Yeah, I think for the most part, like if someone wanted to play a Grizzlebrand like commander, I'd totally be down. I know some people actually run like unbanned knights. And I mean, one of the cards coming up is Channel. I love Channel. I love Channel, and you can't play that in Commander, but we'll get to why in a second, I guess. And again, we're not gonna take too much time here. I actually have a pre-release to get to, so we have a timer today. But Biorhythm for 6 generic and double green sorcery speed. Each player loses life. Each player's life total becomes the number of creatures he or she controls. Wow.
Board wipe plus a creature win the game. That's it. That's literally it. It's just a super anti-fun game is over card. That's why
Yeah.
it's banned.
Yeah, especially when you pair it with Channel. Oh, wait, where's Channel? Channel's down here. I'll skip to Channel. So it's double green sorcery until your end of turn. Anytime you could activate a mana ability, you may pay 1 life. If you do, add a colorless to your mana pool. Obviously, this just reads like, colorless tribal, go to town, play all the stuff. It is very effective. Right. Which I think some of the Eldrazi are actually banned. Like the one Eldrazi is banned.
Yeah, just one.
Right. It just kills me because Rebecca Guai's art here is so good, and the card is so good. Like it's my favorite green card, yet you're never gonna see it outside of like a cube. So sorry. Black Lotus goes without saying. If you own one, I'm sorry you don't get to play it here. But
No, do not apologize to the people who own Black Lotuses. They have the money for Black Lotus. They're living it up.
yeah, I'm sorry, you whales. Get it. Why are you watching this channel? We only play pauper cards here. We only play cards that are reasonably priced. Like over the years, Magic has gotten so much more expensive. Like just jumping into another TCG, it's been mind-boggling. Like I can play a game of competitive One Piece and like have a deck that's $80 and win. And then in Magic, at least with Commander, it's like, yeah, my Mox Diamond is $700. It's like, and I just have the one copy. It's like, what? It's staggering how expensive the game has gotten. I guess that just comes with popularity. But yeah, jumping into other TCGs, it's been funny to see. Braid's Cabal Minion. Speaking of sick
4
art,
mana, no one gets to play the game. Pretty simple.
Right. It's not too dissimilar to Smokestacks, but I guess it's in your command zone.
Yeah.
Right.
The idea is that you can play this turn 1 pretty easily, and then everyone's going, oh, I guess I'm sacrificing that land I played turn 1. Land. Pass. Oh, I guess I'm sacrificing that land I played turn 2. Oh, I guess I'll just scoop.
Yeah. And then you just swing a 2/2 at them, I guess.
Yeah, you just beat them down, and you just keep going, land, go, land, go, land, go, keeping my braids around by playing lands or Ornithopter. And then, okay, you're all dead. Commander damage.
Poor Braids. All right, so the tablet we don't need to go over. Chaos Orb we don't need to go over either. This is the dexterous one.
Dexterity card.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it. Just feels like the wrong game. Like when you read like the anti cards that existed, which we're going to come up on, we're not going to cover them. In these like dexterous cards, things that require skills outside of like your general knowledge of this game. It's so funny to me. It just feels like it belongs in a different game, and yet Chaos Orb exists in Magic the Gathering.
I've always wanted to play a game of Magic with the anti cards, but you play it like poker. Like you can pay extra money to use cards with like, put a card into your anti
Oh,
pile, and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like you put an extra like 2 chips in or something like that. I thought
That
that
would
that would be a fun general concept.
snap up those demonic attorneys. Yeah, you must.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the art for some of these cards too. So we have Coalition Victory. That's another one. We'll skip the antes again. But Coalition Victory is very expensive. It's 3 in Wooburg Sorcery. You win the game if you control a land of each basic type. So just, have all your duels, I guess. And a creature of each color. So have a Wooburg creature.
Yeah, it's win the game if you have all of your dual and triumphs, and then just a Wooburg commander.
I mean,
Because you're playing commander, so your commander is Wooburg most of the time.
I got to be honest with you, and I've talked about this before. Like, you you're doing a whole lot to win the game with this. It's like outright. I feel like that this would just happen off of like an infinite mana, infinite draw kind of line, which at that point you probably infinitely win anyways. I don't think that you're just hard casting this, but in the off chance that you just are, sure. But I would love to unban this. Like, well, you can play this against me. I would love to see someone win with this. Like, this seems very interesting. It's also just the most effective Chrome Mox exile, right?
True, yeah.
There are some cards that don't show up on here. They were flagged as being offensive. We're not going to talk about them. Someone mentioned one of them, I believe. Yeah. We don't need to talk about these cards. They're banned for separate reasons.
It's an old reason why they got banned. Everyone's already formed their opinions on them. We're not going to try to stoke any flames on that.
Yeah, it also doesn't lend to the discussion of Orcish Bowmasters unless there's like something within the art that I'm not noticing. But hey, if that's how they get them to ban this, this art, by the way, like this is the one to get. Oh my god, it's so good. Emrakul, that Eldrazi we spoke of. Well, there's no channel, so it's 15 to drop, 15. When you cast a spell, take an extra turn after this one. That's cool. Protection from spells that are 1 or more colors. Annihilator 6, flying. So, you get the Annihilator 6 because you're taking an extra turn. When it's put into the graveyard, shuffle it anywhere. So basically, it's just a glorified Shuffle Titan. I don't know.
It's a Shuffle Titan that can't be countered and gives you an extra turn. When this was your commander, you basically just build a deck that's all mana rocks and then like a sack outlet.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just go swing Annihilator 6, sacrifice it, replay it from the command zone, swing Annihilator 6, reanimate it from the command zone, swing Annihilator 6, sack it, put it into the command zone, recast it every single time.
Was it really like grossly effective like that? Was this like a KCI Astronaut's Altar kind of deal?
This was powerful, like before Thassa's Oracle Demonic Consultation was a thing. Like it would not be a problem now, but it was just pretty good back in its day, and it wasn't very cEDH viable from what I remember, but it made casual players want to flip the table.
Okay, I can understand that. Yeah, Emrakul's really cool. It's speaking of like flipping cards.
Oh, true, yeah.
Because like it disappoints me because this is one of the cooler mono blue legendaries. But if you haven't seen this, whatever fourth spell of a turn is played, flip Arrayo. So it's like Counting Storm essentially. But it's a generic and a blue for a 1/1 flyer. But then you get this effect, which is amazing. Counter the spell played by each opponent each turn. Counter the first spell, excuse me.
And then you play Arcane Laboratory, and then you just lock out the entire game.
Right, Arcane Laboratory is the blue version of a Rule of Law, right? So you, in that same color, are effectively able to do that. It's probably even more effective, if we're being honest, in like the 99 potentially. Like you could very quickly storm into and flip this and like just have your own, like in a Azorius list, you can have your own lockouts, because then you just have access to a mess of Rule of Law effects, like everything from Deafening Silence to Arcana of Emeria to the new one. Yeah, I could see that being annoying. It's not like we don't have lockouts already, though.
It's the fact that this is 2 mana, easy to set up, and can be your commander. The only other card that this is very strictly compared to is the new Jingataxis, the Kamigawa one, and that's what, 7 mana, 8 mana. Like it's much harder to get that Jingataxis going than it is to get this going.
That's true. That is true.
You just play opt 4 times or you play 3 opts in response to someone casting anything, and then it flips. It's easy to flip.
The I like vegan economist says, nice Emrakul. Have you seen my reprieve? I got to cast reprieve last night. It was funny. Someone tried to. They had one treasure up and that was it, and they tried to swan song my staff of domination, and I reprieved their swan song. And I'm like, you can keep the swan. Save it for later. I promptly I proceeded to win after that. I got to cast reprieve once though, and it was great. It felt great. I love having not counter magic, but something very close. A falling star we're not going to discuss. Fastbound. Oh my god.
Fast bond, yeah.
For a fast bond, excuse me. I've always said fastbound. Because you're kind of bound
mixing this up with Mana Bond, the other 1-mana green enchantment that lets you play all the lands from your hand.
Yeah, well, so for green, you may put as many lands into play as you want. I love how this is worded. As you want each turn, Fast Bond deals 1 damage to you for every land beyond the first you play in a single turn. So if you keep a hand that's full of lands, like what's the best play you've got? What is the best thing you do with Fast Bond?
Okay, play Tatiova, win the game.
Right. Or if you have any form of top deck manipulation or play off the top of your deck, those effects are really good with this. I think for 1 green, it's really good ramp. What's cool about it though is that it kind of opens. I don't know how much these are worth. They're probably expensive, right?
It's like $15 for the cheapest.
Right, 15 for the cheapest. I mean, if it weren't banned, I'm sure it would actually be more money because it is a reserve list card. But yeah, Fast Bond is. It's sad because there's a lot of good green cards that are just banned, like Primetime. I don't think Primetime. We'll get to Primetime. I don't think it needs to be banned. We did discuss.
Fastbond needs to be banned though. Fastbond kind of deserves it because it's burgeoning, except for the fact that you get to do it immediately on turn 1 and play all of your lands, so that you can do an insane turn 2. No, no one gets to play around it.
Yeah, and imagine if you did have like a draw utility and like Thrasios or whatever. I mean, Thrasios puts the lands in the play anyways, but.
Any draw commander, name a draw commander, and then it goes insane. Like,
yeah, you just read.
Tatiova plays this. Tatiova plays this. The serpent version of Tatiova plays this.
And lands are mostly safe as well in like a competitive format. There's some people that run strip mine strategies, but I feel like it's rare. So your lands are going to be really safe. Flash, we discussed. I think I read Justice for Golos. We'll get to Golos. Gifts Ungiven. So I just want to put in the air that Intuition is a card that does exist. So let me know of the play line that really breaks Gifts Ungiven. I did not know there was new art. I really prefer the older art. Let's just look at that one. Okay, so Gifts Ungiven. For 3 generic and a blue, instant speed, search your library for up to 4 cards with different names and reveal them. Target opponent chooses 2 of those cards. Put the chosen cards into your graveyard and the rest into your hand. Then shuffle your library. So what was in case you don't know, Intuition's practically the same thing. It's 1 generic list, it's reserve list, if I'm not mistaken. But you look at 3 cards, you get 1 of the cards, the other 2 go in your graveyard. We all know of the Intuition piles that exist in Grixis and furthermore 4 to 5 colors. So why Gifts Ungiven?
So Gifts Ungiven was initially banned just because it's better Intuition in most scenarios, considering that you get 2 cards, and at the worst case scenario, you choose, let's say, Thorkel Demonic Consultation, and then 2 recursion cards. So your opponent can either give you the 2 cards that are going to combo, or the 2 cards that are going to recur the cards that combo. And then Underworld Breach was printed.
Oh,
so
yeah. Was this banned prior to Underworld Breach, actually?
Yes, way before Underworld Breach. But it's just, this is not getting unbanned because it is just a much more clean version of Intuition.
Right. And Intuition is still pretty, backbreaking if you guys haven't seen this card.
It's pay 1 generic more, except you get to look up 1 more card and get 2 cards to hand instead of 1.
Yeah, I remember I bought an Intuition early on, because I was just trying to buy up reserve list cards as I got into the game. I remember paying, I think, $30 for it. The Tempest version is now $170, and there's the Judge promo that's... I did not know that was $800. Alex owns a lot of very expensive cards. I used Intuition last night. He was using this one. I had no idea it was that expensive. Anyways, yeah, his decks are absurd. Like he literally as he blings out decks, he blings it out with like the most egregious versions of each card. Like he has the foil Wheel of Fortune in one of his decks. He has a foil Grim Monolith I threw down casually. Anyways, I will not let you know where he lives. Golos.
Justice for Golos.
Yeah, I read the comments. I see free Rafellos, free Golos. And I can understand. It's Rebel liked playing Golos, and I feel bad because she had a pretty effective deck for it. So for 5 generic, when Golos enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a land, put that onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. So basically, it's just very easy to play Golos. You're in Wooburg, but the commander itself is only 5 generic. But for 2 in a Wooburg, exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn without paying their mana cost. So the deck, all it wants to do is ramp. So you're just ramping.
Yeah.
And then you get paid for that by being able to play stuff off the top of your library for free. And then obviously with infinite, every colored mana, you win the game. Was it really effective at getting there? I think Dockside makes it pretty easy to get there. I don't know. Like, Golos' track record was never... It didn't win more games than any other deck. Do you know what I mean? Like...
Yeah, the reason that Golos got banned was... And I'm kind of paraphrasing off the rules committee here, but they basically said, why would you play any other Wooburg commander when Golos exists? And it's like the only exceptions being like Najeela and Kenrith, just because they have their own utilities that make them good. But it's basically Golos ramps you, finding you Gaia's Cradle or Cascading Cataracts, which will filter all of your mana for the next effect. Yeah. And the next effect is basically draw 3 and you don't have to pay the mana for them. So Golos was banned because why play anything else?
Yeah,
in casual, at least. In competitive, people didn't really play Golos.
There's definitely space for it though, because Golos, you put Golos down and then you flicker it, and it's just you're getting the colors you need as you flicker it. You do that off turn, obviously. I can maybe understand their reasoning there. I don't think though that it ultimately, which is sort of the core rule, do these cards make Magic fun? I feel like they sort of lead with their heart in a lot of their decisions. And I don't feel like Golos makes it unfun, but I can understand where you might perceive this as just the best thing because it's colorless. It's colorless to play.
One of the category 5 bans, in my opinion. He's just a very high value greedy card, and they banned him just because he did greed better than most greed cards.
Right. It's and again, I guess it's not too dissimilar. Like your Rule 5 on Prime Time, which we'll get to. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. And let me know in the audience, guys, like, what are your feelings on Golos? Because again, I only...
Free my boy.
I've only played against Golos so many times, and then it got banned almost immediately, which was sad. But I don't feel like it was any more effective than playing against my Palace Blue Farm or playing against... There were other decks that did things that were highly valuable that maybe weren't in 5 colors. But I didn't see Golos as horribly effective. Infinite mana with a Thrasios is going to do the same thing. You know what I mean? It does require you to do another thing. So I feel like I'm iffy on Golos being banned. Also, just Golos looks dope, so it's kind of sad that art is taken away from us. But no bans in EDH, says JB. Golos did nothing wrong. Free Golos, free Golos, free homie Golos. Hull Breacher was a bad design from the start, says JB. Okay, well. No bans in EDH, but Hull Breacher was a bad design, says JB. Forest plus Elvish Spirit Guide plus Channel equals Golos. yeah, I'm with you. I wish we could go back to those simpler times. I would play Golos if Channel was available. Okay. The problem with Golos is every time you tutor a land, probably World Tree to fix your mana, it pays for half your commander tax. So removing it is futile. And if you don't remove it, it gives you value. I understand what you're saying there. I can understand what you're saying there. You're going to have a wealth of lands to pull from every time you, like you said, every time you cast it, you're discounting the cost of Golos. So that makes sense. I will say though that, you're probably ramping a Golos with, artifact ramp like a mana vault and stuff. So you might not have sufficient mana, but I get what you're saying, Vegan. Absa says that's on player, not on Golos. Oh, yeah. But why is that a problem when we have partners increasing the cards you start with access to? Not everyone wants to play Golos for every 5-color deck, and there's a lot of Wooburg options now. Yeah, I get that. Golos without ramp would be fine. Well, oh, you just mean it didn't do the ETB effect? Okay. Ragavan on Arena is more oppressive than Golos was in EDH. Damn. All right, I think we're good there. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves on Golos, though. I feel like it would be safe. Like, just let your playgroup play with it if they want to play their Golos deck. Grizzlebrand, is this a good card, Will? For 4 generic and 4 black, 7/7. I'm gonna skip the flying lifelink and just say pay 7 life, draw 7 cards.
Well, I will say the flying lifelink is really relevant.
Yes, it is.
7/7, so you're gonna gain all that life back that you're paying. So also, I'd like to clarify one thing. This is 2 black to play this because you just entomb and then you reanimate. It is just better Necropotence by a mile. This is slightly worse Yawgmoth's Bargain, maybe better Yawgmoth's Bargain depending on how you feel about that lifelink, but the card is so good.
I want to amend your play line to say Entomb Shallow Grave, and then you get
true. Then you get your
7
life.
Yeah. You get 7 life, and then you do even more draw. It's funny because in the CZ, obviously, it would be okay. In the 99, it's
even in the CZ. This is just kind of the best mono black commander in the CZ because you just go, oh yeah, Razaketh, yeah, I don't need creatures with this. I'm just gonna ramp into this as quickly as possible and then go pay all of my life except for like, what's the closest you can do, like 5? And then you go, okay, I'm gonna have 35 cards in hand, play a bunch of things that'll gain me more life, draw more cards, keep going, game.
It just kills me because there's a lot of really cool art for Grizzlebrand. Yeah. That's the only reason I'm upset. Like, I would want to play this version, personally.
I think Grizzlebrand would be really cool if he got unbanned. I'd also be terrified if he got unbanned.
Right.
He's just that strong. But you know what counters Grizzlebrand pretty well? Orcish
Bowmasters. Yeah. Well, you just keep paying life in response, but then they're like, how much damage am I killing you with?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck. I mean, yeah, Orcish Bowmasters is the answer to everything. All of the banned list, Orcish Bowmasters. We got you. Hull Breacher. Do you guys remember when Hull Breacher was a playable card?
I miss neoforming my Thrasios into a Hull Breacher. Come on.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right. So
Hull Breacher's an anti-play card. Preventing draw in a way that's like easily manipulatable and gaining value off of that is just very gross.
Is it any worse than Notion Thief?
Yes, just because it's
splashable,
it's one
cheaper.
color, meaning that can be played in more decks. It's 1 mana less, meaning that it will be able to just come out a lot easier. And also, treasures are sometimes better than card draw, so take that as you will.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It's the Tivit question.
Yeah,
I got to fight Tivit for the first time yesterday. It's like, what am I doing for you? Clues or treasures? I'm like, and I just asked the player, like, what do you want? Treasure. I literally just gave them whatever bug because I'm like, to me it's irrelevant. Like I was playing stack, so it's like, okay, and you get your treasures, maybe remove my thing, try to, whatever.
Yeah. Hull Breacher was mainly banned because it was a 1 color card, so you could slot it into any blue deck, and it was just the best anti-draw card that was printed in a long time, with like another notable exception on this list.
I can't say that I'm upset that Hull Breacher is gone.
I am. I'm sad.
Because I don't play blue in Commander, so obviously I'm biased, but I do understand the effectiveness of the card. Obviously, it sucks when you are breached, man. It sucks so much. This would stunt my Oswald 1 ring list. I'll tell you that. It would suck a lot. I would immediately move to remove this guy. Like, okay, Oswald, let's find that glass casket and put this guy in it really quick. Yeah. But yeah, and actually, I might even
put you in a glass casket.
I'm gonna put you in the glass casket, and maybe even Annex Sentry. Like I might even put Annex Sentry in for Scrap Trawler. Sorry, I'm still brewing Oswald even as we stream. Okay, so this falls into the category we talked about where it shuts players off. Like if you're playing monocolored and you play, Shield of Emeria, that player can't play the game. And I will always argue, hey, here, PSA. If you're playing Commander, this 4-person format, do not make it a 3-person game. If any of your choices makes it a 3-person game, you're ruining the effectiveness of the pod to stop or hamper other players.
Unless
It,
you're the guy in the lead, then in that case, yeah, make it a
well,
3-person game.
right. Like if you're gonna try to control the game in that sense, sure. Like if you're at a competition, sure. Like if it means that much to win the game, sure. But it's not a good choice though otherwise. But yeah, don't make it a 3-person game. Iona makes it a 3-person game in a lot of instances, and I guess could be unfun again. It makes sense. We could just move to the card under it, Caracas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good card.
Yeah.
That is the
Wow,
best
you're
white
playing
land.
a game where everyone builds around a legendary creature?
Right.
Man, it'd be a shame if they never stuck on board.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, even just bouncing your Golos,
Yeah.
playing Golos. Yeah, it's good. That's a really good card. Jeweled Bird, we don't need to talk about. Leovold.
It's Hull Breacher in the command zone. Nothing else needs to be said. It's Hull Breacher in the command zone.
Do you feel it doesn't have flash though?
Yeah, but I don't care.
You're telling me you don't like Leovold?
No, Patrick, let me say this one thing. Turn one, dual land into Delighted Halfling.
Oh,
Turn two,
yeah.
Leopold.
Okay.
Every game.
Does any of the audience miss Leovold? Let me know. I feel like there was probably a lot of Leovold players for a time, and I'm sorry that you can't Leovold anymore. I miss Hullbreacher. I never hear of Hullbreacher until it was banned, says Snowscape. If Hullbreacher was 3 blue pips, he'd be more fair, says Demigod. Steven says, if players didn't feel like they need to break every card, we might not need a ban list. Yeah, I mean,
Agreed.
what's interesting though is like that is a part of the fun for a lot of people, though myself included. Like when I saw the One Ring, I didn't think much of it until Will was like, "Yeah, you could probably break this," and also, and I'm like, "You're probably right," which is
And then you
fun.
tried it out, and then we were like, oh yeah, no, we're building around it.
Oh yeah, you're right. A library excuse me, Alexandria. It fits into the highly overcosted and just playable in every single deck. It's very, very good.
I
Library
don't know if
is very
Power
good.
9, it's honorary Power 9.
It totally is, because in Commander, even if you're on the play, you get to draw a card. So no matter what, you can library.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
draw a card.
always turn one, draw to 8, play library. You have 7 cards in hand. On an opponent's turn, tap, draw back to 8, move
Yeah,
to your turn, draw.
yeah.
It's
It's too good.
yeah.
Limited resources. Do you remember
Yeah,
this
limited
one?
resources is no one gets to have fun because when this comes into play, each player chooses 5 lands they controlled, sacrifices the rest, and players can't play lands as long as there are 10 or more lands to play. Uh, the fact
Yeah.
that it's a 4-person format
Right.
means that 2 players are gonna have 2 lands, 2 players are gonna have 3 lands, and that's it.
Well, I could still cast Dockside Extortionist with 2 lands.
Yeah, it's this card does not like immediately end the game. It's not the most toxic thing in the world, but it is just annoying.
Hmm. Yeah, so Lutri we've talked about. Yes, it doesn't make
Literally
sense.
no reason to not play it.
Right.
It doesn't even take up a deck slot. That's how good it is.
Yeah, the
Uh,
Moxen. Oh,
Power
sorry.
9.
Yeah, Power
Yeah, the
9.
Mox are Power 9.
Paradox Engine. We can maybe talk about. Panoptic Mirror has a lot of like, just win the game combos. Like you put an extra turn spell on this, you win the game.
Yep.
I think that's kind of self-explanatory. It's fine. It's not like impossible to interact with, but it is a 2-card. You're the only one playing the game kind of spell, so I can understand why
Yeah.
they removed it.
This goes with like the category 5 stuff, the like very greedy, very powerful cards, because it just gets you a ton of value or it just ends the game. Like
Hmm.
that's kind of it.
Yeah, no, I get that. That
You
makes
you
total sense to
imprint
me.
your demonic tutor and then you keep demonic tutoring every upkeep, then you imprint an extra turn spell and then you keep extra turning.
That seems decent.
Yeah, like I'm fine if it gets unbanned. I don't care. There's better things.
That's the thing for me. There are better things, like a Paradox Engine, maybe.
Yep.
So
Paradox Engine is such a gross card and it was so underrated because I remember when this card was like $3 when it was initially printed.
And
Yeah, Paradox
only the
Engine.
Selesnya Sisay players were like singing its praises. They're like, it's good, trust me, it's good. And then everyone was like, wait, I untap what? I untap everything. All non-land permanents. It's pretty broken. You can do some pretty crazy stormy turns. I know Joyride players also really enjoy this. It's good. It's probably better that it's banned, but you know, again,
This is categorized under the no one's playing cards just because you're taking one very long turn. That is the reason why it was banned.
And a vegan on the topic of portcullis. I think portcullis only works on creatures, correct? I've not played portcullis, but I've considered using portcullis in a few lists. Lazy Sunday says the thing is also when you make it a 3-person game, someone is going to be spiteful towards you. It just turns into a grudge match with 2 players gaining more and more card advantage. Yeah, it's a fact. It's just not healthy. It's just not healthy for the game. It also is just like not effective for the table. It's better to keep everyone in. Primetime.
Primetime doesn't need to be banned. You get 2 lands every single turn in there, whatever type of lands you want. Is it very good? Yes. Is it going to actually break the format when there's a million other things you could be doing? Not really. I understand why people want it banned for casual. I don't care for competitive, and I think that you can just ask your playgroup to not play it for casual, and people will be cool with that.
Yeah, I think that Primetime is that's a weird choice. I mean, it almost feels like Golos. Like Golos is arguably better with the activated ability, but I mean, this is really good. It's a good card, but it's not backbreaking. We don't have any more to look at here. Prophet of Krufix, obviously, this is very, very
Format
good.
breaker.
Format breaker. Rebirth, we don't need to look at. Recurring Nightmares is another sort of. It's not format breaking.
Category 5. It's just like a very high value card that just says you can constantly curate your board and it can combo with a couple things.
Rofellos is an odd one though, because when you really look at the nature of like legendaries now and just the nature of power creep, how cards have gotten more and more effective, like Rofellos seems kind of laughably. There's a Shaya that would work with it, and there's guys Cradle with you have your Urborg for Forest now. I forget the name of it. It's Yavimaya.
Yavimaya.
So like you could do a couple of crazy things, but is mono green, is green even really that strong in Commander right now? I feel like I would really put it at the bottom of the list, especially with all the banned cards.
Yeah, it's like a category 5 thing that could totally be unbanned because it's like, oh, you can put it into the 99 of any of your green decks. Then it's like, yeah, cool. Am I going to put it into the 99 of my Wooburg deck? No. I'm not running that many forests. Like, sure, it is a debatably worse Priest of Titania.
I would agree with that entirely. And you know what's weird though? Like, with a card like Rofellos, it honestly only benefits the color. I've been having a think on like, each new set comes out, every new card comes out, and the people that profit the most are the people playing 4 to 5 colored list, right? Because like they're going to take the same value cards and like they're just having trouble finding the space in their decks. But then you look at a card like Rofellos and it's like, well, who's really benefiting here? And it's just the mono green list or the color, like the dual colored list. This is like the one card that's grossly effective for helping the sort of the minority group in Commander, it's cEDH in particular, and it's banned. You know what I mean? It feels weird that we're hurting the mono to dual colored list, and every time like an Orcish Bowmasters is printed, like the mono black players are like, yay, we've got more tech, and then the Wooburg players are like, man, do I need to cut Force of Will now? Like, they have dumb choices to make because they're getting the same cards. So it just feels weird to have this banned at this point. Like, I would rather let people play with Rofellos, genuinely. I would love to see mono green just thrive with something like this and be like, man, that's really cool tech. I could never use that in my list, but that's really dope that you get to use that in yours. It just evens the playing field, and it just makes no sense to me.
I'd also like to pitch something of like, okay, Rofellos or Selvala, Rofellos or Marwyn the Nurturer. Marwyn the Nurturer, no questions asked.
Right.
He's not a problem in any way.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's a 99 card is what Nibiru's saying, but even if you were to there are better strategies if you're going to be using triomes to make this better. You know what I'm saying? Like fortified color decks have better things to do, is what I'm saying. Even though this could be tech that they could build for, maybe Golos would have wanted to use this, with their prime time. But it's not going to be a strategy that you'll commonly see in those decks, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I feel like it's disproportionately valuing the minority group of cEDH players, and I would rather them get tech than like what is being commonly used in 4 to 5 colors. Shahrazad, obviously we don't need to talk about that.
Let's play a game in the middle of our game, and then we can play another game in the middle of our game if someone has a fork.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably not something you want to do. Art's amazing, though. Foglio, great job. Sundering Titan, this is weird. Enters the battlefield or leaves the battlefield. Choose a land of each basic type, then destroy those lands. Not fun, I guess.
Land wipe. It's just targeted land wipe. It just says you specifically cannot play the game. Screw you. Honestly, I'd be fine with it because it's an anti-Wooburg card. That's what it is. It just says you're playing a bunch of colors. Cool, I'll hit all of your lands, then all of your lands again.
Yeah, and does that really even shut those players out? Because, to be frank, a majority, well, at least in a cEDH setting, and maybe this is true for casual as well, there's a lot of artifact-based ramp. So once you've played your lands to like ramp out your rocks and like the kind of color-fixing talismans and signets you might be running, your Arcane Signet, your Fellwar Stone, your Moxen, the ones that are playable.
Yeah.
Is this really stunting those players? Like, yes and no. Like, usually the land base is just reserved for like interaction in most cases, or it'll diversify between their rocks and their land base. But they're also, everyone's shooting for Dockside. Like I said, like every DT last night was for someone's Dockside. So I don't know if this one's as grossly effective in a cEDH setting, but I could definitely see this being like a blowout in certain games.
Yeah, the main thing that people were afraid of when this was still playable was any flicker effect blow up 10 lands.
Yeah, that is gross. That is gross to shut. I can understand why it's banned. Sway of the Stars, we're not gonna cover.
Yeah, so let's just reset the game.
Yeah,
Sway of the Stars. It's Shahrazad for 10 mana. Fun, yay.
Yeah, quite questionably fun. Someone's version of fun, I'm sure. Sylvan Primordial, I didn't even know was on here, if I'm being honest.
Better prime time, debatably better prime time. So destroy 1 permanent for each opponent, and then get a forest from your deck for each thing blown up. Holy crap!
7 mana. It's not bad.
You don't care about it being 7 mana.
Ooh.
So he's when it enters, not when it enters or attacks. That's the main difference. But the problem is that it's still just beast within 3 times and they get 3 forests.
I think that there's a personal hatred between the RC and Rafellos. I just want to state that this puts forest into play. Do you guys notice the pattern? I've got my tinfoil. I've got my tinfoil hat on.
Wife Patrick. He didn't want to bring it up this way.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got a personal grudge.
Yeah, get Rafellos out of here. No more forest. Not in my game. Yeah, I mean that's what I'm noticing. But that's okay. Oh god, no. I didn't mean to click on it. We can skip over the Tempesty for it. Time Vault is pretty good.
Yeah, it turns out if you have a key, taking infinite extra turns is a decent thing. Turns out it's quite nice.
Oswald wishes he could play this so bad.
I know.
That would be the best. It would be one of the best decks in the game if I could just play Time Vault. It's legit. If I could turn 1 Oswald, turn 2 Time Vault, burst of energy, break my artifact land to get a manifold key, Voltaic key, and just say infinite turns, everyone. Yeah, it's good. It's really, really good.
What's his name? You know who would really love this? Where is he? Trazen the Infinite, the guy that's Necroticus for artifacts.
Who is this?
He's the Necroticus for artifacts guy.
Elsha, not Elsha.
Mono black.
Oh yeah, Trazen would love this.
He just takes an extra turn.
Oh, you just entomb it. You're like, I'm gonna entomb. Is it legendary or is it just non-legendary? Wait. It's non-legendary, so you can even unmarked grave this thing.
Yeah.
That's really gross. Okay.
That's funny. I love that.
Time Walk is good. Time Walk's is really good.
In a world where Dramatic Reversal is a playable card, turns out Time Walk is also a playable card.
Tinker, Tinker is really good. It lets you cheat out any artifact by sacrificing an artifact. So
The reason why this is banned was because Blightsteel Colossus, but then Bolas' Citadel got printed and it had another reason to stay banned.
yeah, it makes sense. Tolarian Academy. You're not allowed to go to school there anymore. I'm sorry, gang, but you make
Yeah,
a blue for every.
your fast mana is faster mana.
Right. Is this better than Sarah's Sanctum?
Yeah. Yeah. Better than Sarah's, better than Guy's Cradle.
Okay.
Your
Timefall plus
Dockside
Paradox.
makes you 10 mana, then another 10 mana. Let's go.
And we're almost at the end of the list here. One of my least favorite cards, Upheaval. Yeah,
Oh, you're
it's
skipping? You're just skipping on my boy, my mono blue draw spell that I love so much.
all right. You go over Trade Secrets.
Yeah, trade secrets. You and target opponent draws 2 cards, then you drop to 4 cards. Your opponent may choose to repeat this any number of times. This is either 3 mana do nothing or 3 mana like the game is over because you and your opponent just fill your hands.
Yeah.
Because your opponent just keeps saying, I'll choose to draw until their deck is in their hand, and you saying, I'll choose to draw until I only have like 3 cards left in my deck, then I'll choose to stop, and then you just have your deck in your hand, and then it's 2 players with all the card advantage against 2 players who have like 3 cards in hand.
Remember when I said it's bad to make it a 3-person game?
Yeah, it's worse to make it a 2-person game.
If it's a 2-person game, it's you're just gonna be you just shuffle up and like get ready for the next one. But also, it's only 3 mana to do it. It's a dumb card. It's a very good card. But I'll go over Yawgmoth's Bargain first. This is just another grossly effective card. It's on the same level as Griselbrand. Yeah, it's essentially the same thing. Like you skip your draw step. Okay. Okay, pay 1 life, draw a card. Okay. Sure. This would have been great, a Nixia attack. God, wouldn't that be great? I wish we had this for the brewing session, guys, but we did not. Then Nixia would be great. She's just still okay. Unbans would be great just to satisfy the majority. Here, I'm sorry, I've been skipping a lot of comments. We've gotten so many comments in. I just want to go over the last card, and then we're going to jump into our title cards. But Upheaval, return all permanents to their owner's hands. Who benefits from this? Probably the person playing it.
Yeah, the guy who floats the extra 10 mana to replay all of their things that were bounced.
Right, and then if they, and usually when you see this, like the same deck has like a Winter Orb in it or some shit, just stuff that's gonna make it so you can't rebuild your board state, and then you don't get to play. It is as frustrating as it sounds. Upheaval's my least favorite card. If you hand me one at an event, I will rip it. Don't hand me an Upheaval. If you want me to sign a card for you or something, don't hand me an Upheaval. I will rip your card. Quote me. Sorry, that was really rude. And from there, thanks again, guys, for joining us on this one. I enjoyed speaking on all of the banned cards. I haven't revisited them in a while, but we're going to jump into now the 2 title cards. I just want to state, we've sort of established again those through lines between most of the bans. Will's five rules as to why we ban cards, and I speak for the rules committee here. If you want to quickly go over those again before we touch on our actual cards, we'll look at Mirkwood Bats first.
Yeah, so it's 1 for Power 9 / hyper expensive cards, just the things that are really strong and really expensive and not a lot of people have access to. 2 is things that just say players can't play the game, things that make the game not fun to play, and just 3 is things that make it. What was the third? I can't remember the third now. I believe 3 was just like 4 was the format breakers. 3 was, why am I blanking?
Oh, you're good.
Oh, sorry. 1 was the logical bans. The things that just literally could not nor should not be played. 2 is the Power 9. 3 is the no fun, no play cards. 4 is the format breakers that say you're playing Commander, cool, this card's insane. And then 5 is the just the hyper value greedy cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so with that in mind, what I want to do is just read over these cards, act like they're fresh to us, and discuss the pros and cons and reasons for a ban And we're playing devil's advocate here a little bit, but reasons to ban and reasons to not ban. And feel free to chime in the comments as well, like your thoughts and feelings on these cards. Again, I don't play Pauper. I understand that this might be playable in a different setting. I've heard people say Mirkwood Bats, Dockside Extortionist, and I'm like, well, you kind of get that with a lot of cards, like Mayhem Devil as well. Like, you're in Rakdos, clearly, so, is this really that great? But I'm jumping ahead of myself. Mirkwood Bats for 3 generic and a black, 2/3 body, creature bat, flying. Whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. So for me, I wrote down, so far as pros are concerned, it's splashable, right? It's only 1 black pip, it's 4 mana. It's a low-ish cost. It's very easy to Neoform into or Eldritch Evolution out. This is putting you in Golgari minimum. But if we're being honest, this would maybe fit in the body of a larger 3 to 5 color list potentially. So there's plenty of ways you can put it out. It's a 2/3 flyer, which is legitimately a good blocker. It doesn't block everything, but 3 is actually a good defense value. So you're going to be able to block a lot of stuff if you have to. You're likely not attacking with this. And it's an asymmetrical life loss. So per token generation or sacrificing, it's only your opponents that are losing out. Cons, it's 4 CMC. It is actually costly, and if you're weighing your options on a cast for turn, like, do you want to play the One Ring or do you want to play Mirkwood Bats? And in my book, I don't know. I feel like card value has always been really good. The person historically in every TCG or CCG I've ever played, card draw is pretty good. So when you weigh it against other cards that are 4 CMC, is this really great? Yeah, it's like an outlet. It's still good. It only operates on your own create and sacrifice, and I say that because we have cards that work symmetrically for everyone doing the thing, So is this as good? Like, and I reference Mayhem Devil. That's one of those things. Mayhem Devil also triggers off your opponents, right? So those are my cons for this card. And before I go over reasons to ban and not to ban, what would you say are your pros and cons for Mirkwood Bats?
So this card is like a pseudo impact tremors, in my opinion, just because it's when something enters, each of your opponents take damage. It's literally impact tremors, but 2 more mana.
Mm-hmm.
However, impact tremors is when a creature enters the battlefield under your control. Mirkwood Bats is when a token enters, which is both better and worse because it works off creature tokens, but it won't work off of you just flicker storming or doing something like that. However, if you have just a way to make a lot of food or a lot of treasures, it'll trigger off of that. So, like you brought up before, Dockside Extortionist or Academy Manufacturer, like, those things are going to make a lot of tokens very quickly, and even if you're not going infinite, this can do a lot of burn. Now, to contradict that, there's a lot of cards that burn a lot better.
Yeah.
Like, you can do Heartless Hidetsugo with a lifelink effect, and then you can just burn everyone out and set yourself up to like 80 life. Just kind of better.
Yeah, so again, to play devil's advocate here, the reasons why I could potentially see banning this is that it plays well and easily into several token and sacrifice strategies as an outlet, but also is just like generically good life loss value. But even that is a stretch. Like, I feel like as Will is saying, there are better options in this category. And the reasons not to ban it, in my opinion, is it's life loss. It's not like it's targeted damage. You're really only doing a singular thing here.
It's also not even life drain. It's life loss.
Yeah. Like, you're not, and in black, like, you clearly care about your own life. So, you've seen a myriad of cards that say each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life, right? That's what Will's saying with drain. This is not that. Like, it's good. It's really good, but you're still gonna, like I said, why this as a pro, that this is a good blocker. People are going to swing at you. You're inherently probably going to be swung at because black is notoriously known as the color that cares about life as a resource. So I don't see this as being a bannable card. I'm curious as to know where it might be considered bannable or what precise power level. I don't think that this is any better or worse than anything that's existing in the space already. And in a lot of cases, it is worse. So I don't know. I don't see this getting banned, but it's interesting that it's up on the chopping block.
Yeah, I'm quickly checking because I want to see if there's a... It does not... Yeah, there's not a common printing for Blood Artist or Zulaport Cutthroat. So, like, it'll probably see play in Pauper Commander, but I
Mhm.
also don't think Pauper Commander is too popular of a format to make ripples in the banning, like the ban list.
Okay. Yeah. Are there any potential reasons you could see to ban this though?
Uh, Not really. In my opinion, not really.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. That's fair. And audience, I leave it up to you. Like, here, I'll put one more poll out there. Would you should we ban
Ban the bat.
ban the bats? And I'm curious though, like, please let me know. Is there a bats tribal? Is there a bats tribal or bats tribe? I don't think so. I don't really think so. But yeah, let us know. Like, I want to share your commentary or your thoughts on this. Maybe it reaches the right ears. Like, if I've been hearing people say that they want to put this in lists, you know, all of our videos updating you guys on Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle Earth, there's always a handful of comments about people, and I guess these are the murmurs that, you know, the rules committee is hearing, of people wanting to insert Mirkwood Bats in a series of decks. Like, it's a common with, you know, mythic rare value. Like, I get it's doing a lot of cool stuff in that common spot. I'm curious as to where this fits into your deck building, or which decks this fits into. And is this as broken as it sounds to some people? Like, again, I'm a little miffed by it. I didn't even know until I read this quarterly update that it was even a consideration, the Mirkwood Bats. And again, they say to a lesser extent. So I honestly don't foresee this being banned, but I'm curious as to why it would be. So Nibiru says all card types trigger this.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. This is true. Which is actually is kind of cool, right? We have is there a pets tribe? Yeah, I'm a casual player. I just like watching cEDH content, Lilith. But then you might be the perfect person to answer this. Like, is Mirkwood Bats going to see play in a casual setting, like a casual environment? Is this going to be really backbreaking for players that are playing a more casually oriented game? Excuse me. I don't know if that's true. Dopsa says this is weak enough to go alongside Prime Time. Yeah, I see that. Two power creatures are neat, Nibiru says. My friend bought me the Mordor deck with that. He bought some set boosters, and then he actually gave me the bats to use in my Arami deck.
Oh,
Very cool.
the Morning Tide. Yeah. Arami's cool. Arami's very cool.
Yeah, that would be sick. And let me see here. Depends on the list. I don't like putting cards like this in cEDH. I assume mono black cEDH, because I'm very cautious about putting 4 CMC cards because they need to be exceptional. And I assume because cEDH traditionally, at least for as long as I've been playing, cEDH has always been like a cEDH ad-nos list. cEDH comes into play and you can sacrifice a creature, and if you do, you get to tutor. It's like a DT in the command zone. And normally cEDH's play lines are to find ad nauseum and play ad nauseum. So if you don't want to have high cost things, yeah, makes sense. What's up?
Oh, Patrick, it's cEDH saw in half now.
Oh, oh wait, that's really good. Actually, I really like that. I didn't even know. Wow, should be Bruce Sidisi on the channel. That's actually kind of sick. This card costs too much to be a combo piece as long as we have Impact Tremors and Reckless Fireweaver. The RC is just scared of treasures. Yeah, and with the prevalence of Dockside Extortionist, sure. But again, like, I would say the con is, you know, this only works on your own, right? It's kind of weird. Like, the card I brought up twice, in the name I'm blanking on now, the Rakdos. What was the card? It's the Rakdos one.
Devil.
Mayhem Devil. Right, so Mayhem Devil's like really effective in this regard. I remember it was sort of slept on, and then everyone started playing it with the prevalence of Dockside Extortionist, because whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, this means fetch lands, this means treasures, largely. There are other things, obviously. Mayhem Devils deals 1 damage to any target. So yes, it's less effective damage you're throwing out there. It's not doing a total of 3 damage, provided you have 3 opponents still. It's doing 1 damage to any target. So, like, pair this with your Orcish Bowmasters, and you can really start eliminating the board. This is not as effective as Orcish Bowmasters. I'm just going to say that right now. It's good. It's very good. But you can see the differences here, right? This is really good against opposing Dockside Extortionists and then your own Dockside Extortionists. Whereas Mirkwood Bats is like, are you doing the thing? Profit, right? It's not quite as effective. It's the 3-color cEDH, says Lilith. Got you. A symmetrical burn, great with treasures, sneaks under Nas, says Nibiru. Okay. Bats look worse than Mayhem Devil most of the time, but I'd like to see it play more. Mirkwood Bats I may place in the Prosper deck. This card is black and we have cool new Convoke Dragons.
Yeah.
Wink, wink, Dreadhorde. Are we talking about the... I was going to say Dreadhorde Champion. Wait, Hoarding Broodlord.
Yeah.
Right. All right, I think with that, we can officially end this poll. I'm just trying to gauge your opinions. Again, maybe someone on the RC or advisory group sees this. Maybe there's some logic to our conversation here, but the whole point of today's podcast is to hopefully have just a genuine player-to-player discussion on these cards. And it looks like 97% of you say no, that this shouldn't be banned, and 3% of you say yes. 1% of you don't have any feelings, apparently, regardless of whether you put them in the poll or not.
Oh, it said 97 for me.
Oh, did it? It says 96 on my end. That's so
yeah,
weird.
I see it says 96 on the ending of it, but it said 97 before you closed it out. So
I don't know how that works. Yeah, one of your votes didn't count. I'm sorry. It's just like our system.
Screw that one person in particular. We don't like you.
Is this card really any more dangerous than a Perforos? I wouldn't say so. But for a non-red list, Bats is playable still. Right. Well, again, and that sort of fits into the Raphaelos category. Like, who are we really shafting here? Those poor, like if you're playing mono black, maybe you do want to roll with Mirkwood Bats. Mirkwood Bats is cute and all, but meh. Nothing to fear.
I could see a zombie deck running Mirkwood Bats and being happy because you make a bunch of zombie tokens and then you ping people out. Like, you can do Field of the Dead stuff. There's some cool things you can do. It's just, it's not worth banning.
No, I agree. But the more important question is whether Orcish Bowmasters should be banned.
So there's interesting conversations to be had here.
And again, we're gonna rep the art I've got right here. Ooh, shiny. Again, I've got it's a really cool card. So let me preface this with a little anecdote. So yesterday we played 5 or 6 games, I think. Majority of my time I was playing Oswald, but I did play a blue farm later. I borrowed someone's blue farm. It had Orcish Bowmasters. I never had a chance to play it, but I did see, I think there was 3 Bowmasters that evening. 2 of which when I was playing Oswald. In that case, all I did was find ways to protect myself from getting pegged, right? So like a Lightning Greaves is enough to stop Orcish Bowmasters. And there's a couple of other utilities you can use. So really, when I'm drawing, there's maybe a social game, and between me and the Bowmaster player, it's like, okay, well, let's get rid of the Kinnan, let's get rid of the Thrasios, let's get rid of the Tymna. Like, let's nuke the board. It's cool. You get your amass tokens. The token generally went towards me, and that's fine. I've got removal. And the Bowmaster stays along in game for as long as I would want it to. The thing that really helped resolve Bowmasters and a really ridiculous board state that occurred was there's a Bowmasters, a Mayhem Devil, an Opposition Agent, you name it. There was just a lot of hate on the board, and the Bowmasters honestly was doing the most work. I top decked Winds of Abandon, and fortunately the player with that crazy board state was tapped out. So I was able to just annihilate the board, and that particular list didn't run any basics, so there was no benefit for them at all off of my Winds of Abandon. Bowmasters, I think the biggest creature was an 8/8 tops. Most of the board stopped trying to feed into it, but that was 8 damage that was allocated that one game for 2 mana. It is very effective at doing what it does. I'll say that, particularly when you're playing against, again, like I said, blue farm, all these decks that just have draw in the command zone, or just draw off of their Mystic, their Ristic, the things they're tutoring for. It does the thing very well. It was actually funny because there's a situation where I had played Esper Sentinel, and with the trigger, it's not a choice on your part. You don't get to may draw. It's do they pay it or don't they pay it? So they're like, no, I'm not going to pay for it. You can draw a card, and then I'm going to ping the Esper Sentinel and make my thing bigger. And it was like, oh, shoot. It's like, it's
opt.
Yeah, right. It's crazy. It's crazy effective, but I can't say that at any point did I feel like it should have been banned. And it was funny because one of our players was like, they had removed Fire Covenant from their list, and they're like, should I run Fire Covenant again? And I'm like, 100%. 100%. Like, anytime someone's removing removal from their list, I look at how much removal is existing in the list, and I say to myself, almost every single time, like, you could be running more removal. So, like, why are we cutting these cards? Like, don't cut removal for value, because at a certain point, you're going to lose out to your opponent's value. You do need options to even out the board. Even if you are playing a fast, aggressive deck, you need options to stop crazy board states. I used my own Fire Covenant that game to kill the Bowmasters, and that was the game where there was an 8/8 thing smacking me, which really sucked. So Bowmasters, go on.
Speaking of Fire Covenant as well, Orcish Bowmasters just kind of feels like a better Fire Covenant in a lot of scenarios because you're dividing damage as you choose and making a massive body and not even paying life to do it.
I'll let you start off on this one, Will. Can you see Bowmasters? Do you mind reading it off and maybe giving me a few pros and cons?
Sure thing. Orcish Bowmasters is 1 in a black for a 1/1 creature orc archer with flash. It does not have reach, which a lot of people have been joking around with. When Orcish Bowmasters enters the battlefield, or whenever an opponent draws a card except for the first card they draw on each of their draw steps, Orcish Bowmasters deals 1 damage to any target, then amass orcs 1. So the one thing that I've had pointed out is this might be holy crap, I'm tripping over my tongue.
You're good.
This might be the first archer without reach, which is kind of funny because if you look at the original art, the bows are pointing every way except for up. So it's kind of a good laugh. But I do want to preface this by saying my personal opinion is I don't think this card is ban worthy, but this card is really good. It's, in my opinion, it is most comparable to Dockside, Thorkel, and Hull Breacher. It's somewhere in that category.
Of good.
Because it's a 2-mana card that immediately enters and does something. It is kind of a stacks piece because it's going to change up how people play the game. It's removal against a couple different things. It's combo potential, and it's also a way to close out the game. And I'll bring up the combo really quick, which is just Razaketh and Dark Deal. Use Razaketh, sack anything, get Bowmaster. Sack the Orc Army token, get Dark Deal. Use Dark Deal, get a bunch of amass triggers. Sack the token in between each of the triggers, get whatever pile you want, win. And you can make that easier with Windfall or with Wheel of Fortune. And Dockside is a pretty good card by itself, but it does need other cards to actually use the mana. And Thorkel does nothing, and you need Demonic Consultation or Tainted Pact to win the game off of it. But Orcish Bowmaster is just a powerhouse by itself that also combos off really well. And I said all of this on the Discord. And I'm acknowledging Thorkel and Dockside are both really powerful. I'm acknowledging that they could be banned. I don't think that they should be banned. But Orcish Bowmasters does not have the one weakness that Thassa's Oracle and Dockside did, but it has the exact same strengths that Hull Breacher did in a way that it is a card that single-handedly changes how the game is played and potentially stops people from just playing the game. And you can mix it with a couple different things to just kind of end the game. So it feels significantly more like Hull Breacher than Dockside and Thorkel. So I think it's closer to being banned than Dockside and Thorkel, but I also don't think it needs to be banned because it can be killed by a plethora of different ways. There is the ability to play around it. People can also people don't like playing Wheels or Windfall, and that's just going to be pushed a little bit more by Orcish Bowmaster. And I think that the end result is likely going to be Orcish Bowmaster will not be banned, and we're just going to have a less creature-heavy meta, because right now cEDH is everyone has blockers, because everyone is playing creatures right now. I think Orcish Bowmaster is going to kind of tap that down a bit, because it's a good piece of creature removal.
Yeah, man, it's so weird. Like, I don't think the games where Bowmasters were played, the player who played Bowmasters won. And I think it's because everyone hated on that person, which was so interesting. It's true. Because like my I was locking in two of the games I played, Oswald, I'd locked the board with Drannith Magistrate. One was really good. I had a Skrelv, a Drannith Magistrate, and then boots on my Drannith Magistrate. So everyone was doing everything they can to get rid of like that, because I was on the play, and I'd just done that before anyone got their commanders, right? Bowmaster's effectiveness, I just don't think can be argued with. Let me go over some of my pros and cons here, and then we can go more anecdotal. I played a couple of games against Bowmasters, and I can't say that it should be banned, but it might fit into format shaping. So pros: it's splashable cost. It's a generic and a black. Even if it were double black, it would be very playable. I do think that it could have demanded being double black though, because its effectiveness, it's so effective. I think they should have just made this double black and made it a little bit more difficult to play, personally. But it's very splashable. It has flash. I'm not sure it needed flash. It could have had reach, being a series of bowmen, but they gave it flash because anytime they attach an effect to a card that has no hitches, they're like, hey, let's put like the Hull Breacher, let's put flash on it. It helps the effectiveness of the card, yes. But then again, they didn't put a hitch on this. Like, instead of the last line of this card reading, this effect may only trigger once per turn, they're like, let's do a Mass Orcs 1 instead. So it has an ETB on top of the fact that it's doing the thing, right? Again, probably didn't need to do that. It could have just said, flash whenever Orcish Bowmaster, whenever an opponent draws a card, except for the first one, blah, blah, blah. Instead, they decided, it should enter. You should pay, it's flash, you pay 2, you get a 1/1, you make a 1/1, you ping a thing, right? I think generically that sounds really good, but the fact that it's doing it off of draws outside of the first one every single turn is very, very effective. So a Mass Orcs 1, again, probably they could have removed 1 to 2 things from this card and it would have made it a little bit more leveled, but the fact that you're amassing Orcs is, as Will had just illustrated, it makes it a combo card. It makes it more valuable than just a utility, right? For clearing the board, better than arguably a Fire Covenant in many situations, particularly in a cEDH setting where everyone is going for the draw, right? Where the top decks we see winning tournaments have some form of draw in the command zone. It's really, really good at removing board states, and I can vouch for that. Like, pretty much every single game Bowmasters hit, the only board state that existed was the person playing Bowmaster. So the cons. It's not every draw, right? It's not like Smothering Tithe or something that affects every draw, but it didn't need to be. I'm just trying to find cons here, okay? The other con that's legitimate is the fact that it is a... Here's another con, actually. It's an orc and not a goblin. Thank God that these aren't goblin Bowmasters.
That is actually kind of fair, because it is way too easy to find goblins if you tech into red.
Imagine if it was goblin Bowmasters.
Oh God,
that'd be really good. So no, it's not that. Okay, it's not that. Okay, got that. It's a 1/1. That is a legitimate con, because literally it can and will die to anything. The issue is no one runs enough removal. Like, the Krark Sokka list was running this effect that does 1 damage to each creature, 1 damage to every player. It doesn't target. And like, that's really good at removing board states, because they can copy that and potentially just like blow up everything, right? It's a luck-based deck though, so mind you, it's not pulling in all the work, but even just getting that to go off once would be enough. Literally anything will kill Orcish Bowmasters. The fact of the matter is, no one runs enough removal. I think we play too greedily. I think that this is going to change how people evaluate their deck construction, the types of interaction they're going to keep, because this can be format breaking if your Seaborn Muse and your Thrasios and all the stuff you like for value just dies every single turn.
I do also want to point this out, because not a lot of people think about this, but this is something really good to think about. This is a win con in a lot of lines that people need. Like, for instance, World Gorger. You can flash this in the middle of the World Gorger loop, then the ETB keeps triggering and pings everyone to death. Teamer Sabertooth Dockside, you keep looping this by flickering it, you ping everyone to death. This is an outlet for a lot of your infinites as well. This card does kind of everything, but I will say this card has like a good amount of counterplay. People can choose to not draw, or people can play politics with this card to say like, hey, yeah, I'll draw 3 cards and you can kill the Drannith, and then we can play the game. And there's like there's a lot of utility that this card gives that isn't just pure no one's playing the game. It
Mhm.
gives more game interactions. So the only way that I think this card could be banned is if the RC thinks of it as a category 5 card where it's just like, oh, it's a really good greedy value card, or if they see it as a no one's playing the game card because no one can keep a board state. But I don't think we're gonna see that as a problem in casual. And in competitive, you don't need to keep a board state to win.
Mhm.
Most decks have a way to win throughout it, or will have a way to remove the Bowmaster. So
Right.
I think that it ducks the two categories that could get it banned. So it probably shouldn't be banned. Because it's not a hull breacher that just says no draw for you. It says punish your draw, and it
Mhm.
doesn't give treasures which will let you get your Adnaz out or any other crazy card out. It does damage, which is really good. Lets you remove some stuff, which is really good, and it makes you a very big boy.
Mhm.
That's it. It's
Yeah.
really good,
Yeah,
but
the big boy
is it
was legit.
bannable?
Yeah, that's it. Well, and that's it. So again, I do want to play a little bit of devil's advocate here and give you my reasons, the reasons I can see for banning this. But there is a flip side to these coins, right? Like what I'm gonna say, there is a counter argument to be said, and some of you are already stating it, right? So reasons to ban it. It punishes any form of utility draw, but especially creature based draw, right? Without a hitch. Again, this isn't once per turn. This isn't anytime you draw, I'm going to put these triggers on the stack, and then I am allowed to allocate damage however I choose, and I make a really big creature. Right, so it's pretty damning. And you know, wheels are becoming less prevalent now, but still people do jam, and this might even be the reason you do run the windfall, or be the reason you do put the wheel of fortune back in. Usually, wheel of fortune's like the one that you do manipulate, but you get what I'm saying. This is also encouraging you to play wheels as much as it is discouraging you to play wheels, depending on your color, right? So flash means it can be coming over a wheel and any sort of draw effect, right? I think another reason that makes this unfun in a sense and maybe a little too damning is the fact that it has flash. Like it's just grossly effective, more so than it would be without it, obviously. It's also just a very low cost. Like it's 2 CMC to do an effect that, like, this 2 CMC creature leveled an entire board one game. It just disrupted the whole board. And fortunately, the it was Alex playing it. He had the Mayhem Devil Orcish Bowmaster Opposition Agent, and then he just top decked a wheel. Like, what the hell? So he had Wheel of Fortune on the stack, and like literally counter magic went off, because if he resolved that Wheel of Fortune, we would have all been in a really bad state, right? So again, like I was saying, it encourages you to play wheels, and that sort of puts it in an unfair position because he also has a time twister in that deck, right? So like, just by, you know, the fact that he could afford one at the time he bought it, like he's just going to be at an advantage with the probability of seeing a wheel in his deck, outside of the fact that he runs all the tutors. So reasons not to ban it, and I can only find one myself that is a fair way to look at this, is that it easily dies to any removal, along with any sort of redirect effect. Like, there are plenty of ways to get rid of the Orcish Bowmasters. And while I feel it is grossly effective, I don't think that it's as damning as people are hyping it up to be, or excited and thinking it is. Like has been stated with one of the banned cards we went over, like Hull Breacher, it's not giving you a draw. It's taking away your draw, and it's giving the player value. And with a wheel, that could be even more effective. We also need to look at the sources that are providing the draw. Yes, it is really painful for people that are manipulating a Thrasios or a Crom or a Tymna, right? We're getting to punish those decks finally. But for someone like me who is on the one ring, you know, one of the games I had the ring out, like Orcish Bowmaster killed Oswald. I'm like, great. I won that game with the one ring. So like, it didn't hurt me, but all of the decks that just had generically good draw value in the command zone, they were cooked. Like, they were not getting it, right? Which was interesting because it inadvertently helped me. And like, I was gonna fuel that engine, right? So it could be a detriment as well for a lot of those lists. So like, depending on where the draw is coming from, it's not as damning as you'd believe, right? But there's no arguing the effectiveness of this card. I think it's really going to come down to the kind of pods that the RC arguably plays in more than a cEDH setting. I would say in a cEDH setting that, provided you build your deck right and you understand that every list that has black in it is probably going to be running an opposition agent and an Orcish Bowmaster in it. So far as like, you know, stacks and removal are concerned, you are going to have a good time against this player if you run the right amount of removal. Like, you should be fine. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Orcish Bowmaster. I don't think it needs to be banned necessarily. Again, I've played, I think, a total of 5 games where I've seen it, and it's been fine. It's been fine.
Yeah. The reasons why I think it could be banned is, one, like, it's a category 5 card. It just does like enough of everything that it's a very greedy and very powerful card.
Mm-hmm.
It's potentially category 3 that stops people from playing the game. So it's just very good at keeping the board clear. And it's also potentially like a category 4, which is like a format breaker, just because the fact that you have 3 opponents means that you can't abuse anything to just kind of get extra pings and extra masses. But it doesn't fit in any of those 3 categories. It just brushes up against those 3 categories. So those are the reasons why I think it could be banned, is the fact that it glides close enough to those categories that it might be able to make it banned. And the reasons why I don't think it needs to be banned is, while the card does do literally everything you'd want it to do, it's not really stopping anyone from playing the game, and there is a ton of counterplay to it, and it can be killed by literally anything. And people acknowledge that this card is a threat enough that they will deal with it. So they're cool with like swan songing that reanimate that's targeting Orcish Bowmaster, which happened in our live stream game, I think. So the card is kind of keeping itself in check, in addition to the fact that redirect kills it, deflecting SWAT kills it, like anything can kill this card very easily, including another Orcish Bowmaster, as a lot of people pointed out in chat.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen people switch the Dothy Voidwalker for it, actually. But I agree with you, Dr. Byrne. Like, I think those are both auto-includes, too. That's the only reason I didn't bring up Dothy with those 2 cards. But I feel like Opposition Agent, Dothy, and Orcish are very good includes. I might go over some of these comments really quick. Sorry, there's been so many. I this is the main topic, so I can understand. I'm going to make sure you guys get your voices in here, though.
This is what people were waiting for, yeah.
Yeah, Orcish Bowmasters hitting any target is why it's cracked. Fact. Because at a certain point, it's just going to go for life. It's going to run out of creatures. It's going to run out of creatures to hit. Chatterfang eats Bowmasters in its sleeve, says Douglas. Yeah, Golgari boys. Yeah, and you get to play Orcish Bowmasters. There are barely any cons you trigger this multiple times, correct? You do trigger this multiple times. Isn't that the multiple mass trigger on the stack? Yeah, well, it's in each individual one, right? So that's the trick with Razaketh. But at any point, like, you'll usually wait. My trick for getting rid of it is like I was playing Blue Farm, but like a bounce effect, like a Chain of Vapor. What did I use? The token got big enough that was really, really hurting me. Like, I was off of Adnos pretty much as soon as it entered the battlefield. But yeah, you just use a bounce effect to get rid of the token, and then you eliminate the Bowmasters. But it is providing 2 threats you need to think about, which is also, honestly, a part of the reason why it's so cracked. Bowmasters is also, answer to Bowmasters, says Josh, like you were saying. That's a lot of sack options. I might have missed what that was for. Diego says, Pat is right, the amount of interaction and type of interactions will change, and that's a good thing. I think so too. I like it when cards... shape the format in a positive way. I feel like we should have always been on more removal, honestly. I don't ever see enough of it. People sort of just get to carry, get to just, I don't know, people can just carry through a game. What am I trying to say? They get to walk away with a game in some instances because of the lack of interaction. For the most part, I would say, like, people consider like their main course of interaction, if they have Golgari, as a culling ritual, and like, yeah, that's how I'm gonna remove all the board. But there are certain things you just don't hit. You will hit Orcish Bowmasters with culling ritual, though. It is still probably one of the better wipes in most instances. Bowmasters is another reason to run Stern Scolding. Stern Scolding should be run in cEDH with creature heavy metas, in my opinion, says Josh. Douglas says, in a casual or high-powered casual, this could alter the format slightly, but cEDH just has too many answers. Newbrewer says, Orca Mask is a form of card advantage. Yeah, totally. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Because it's
10-10 gets there.
Yeah, and it's like, I say it's like it's simple enough to like snap it or chain of vapor it, but you're wasting a resource to do that. And then if you did use chain, your opponent could do the same thing to you. They're like, yeah, okay, thank you for the chain. You bounce my token that I got for free, and then I'm gonna bounce your whatever value piece, right? Or it might have been like your own piece of stacks, like holding the game down.
The worst part is you have to kill Bowmaster first, or else it's just going to be coming back in like a minute.
Right, exactly. And so there's a sequence here that needs to happen, right? And again, I feel like we just keep adding to the pile of reasons to potentially...
It does a lot, but it needs to actually enter a category in a much harder way to be considered a threat. Because, for instance, Thassa's Oracle isn't banned, even though it's an insta-win card, because it requires a secondary card that is kind of niche to do it. Whereas Hull Breacher is banned because it's a card that does something that slows down the game to a ridiculous degree where no one's doing anything for like 7 turns sometimes. Like if you just don't have a tutor or don't have an ad nauseum, you're like, okay, I'm sitting on 21 treasures and no one has cards in hand. Pass.
Yeah. So gross. But yeah, that does happen. And to piggyback onto that point, I believe someone mentioned that what's nice about the scenario, and I can't find the comment, is that you still get the draw. Like you can find answers getting draws, right? So you're going to suffer through a lot of damage, but it doesn't shut off the game in the same way as Hull Breacher. And honestly, like I don't miss Hull Breacher. I don't miss Hull Breacher at all.
I miss Hull Breacher.
So I'm hearing for a couple of bans before this. So if you were to ban Bowmaster, then ban Ristic or I Riot. I also see if Dockside isn't going to be banned, this won't be banned, right? And I think this is playing along with Will's comment that it's getting really close to the sun. Icarus is flying really close, but it's not quite there. I agree. I will state though, yeah, I agree with you, Dr. Byrne. Like it's an auto include. It's an 100% an auto include. This is like just buy one. Maybe not this version, but buy a copy. Like you're gonna put it in every list that includes black. 100%. And Josh says, I honestly think Stern Scolding is one of the better cards. Yep. Or I think we're in agreement on Stern Scolding. Stern Scolding counters this, says Steven. Life is the least problematic thing. It shits on any creature, says Alex. Yeah, and again, we just brought that up because like at a certain point, you're going to remove the board, and then you're just going to peg the person that's on like that ad nauseum package. And those are all things I really don't mind. I love Josh's suggestion of amass tokens with Skull Clamp, right? I think that token's going to be like a 7/7 by the time you get to your Skull Clamp turn. But I do like the thought. I do like the thought of it a lot. But you're absolutely right. It's just a 1/1 to profit. It's pretty dope. So we need more boogeymen to broken strategies. This is the perfect addition to the list, like Oppo and Dothy, says Alex. I agree. Like Dothy really hurts Underworld Breach. Opposition Agent really stunts like the massive amounts of tutors we see in the cEDH setting. I agree on all these fronts. Lilith. Sorry.
Can I just say we have White has Drannith Magistrate, Esper Sentinel, Archivist of Ogma. Blue has like the Fairy Mastermind and like Foss's Oracle. Black has Oppo, Doffy, and Bowmaster now. Red has Dockside and Breach. When is Green gonna get their really good powerhouse thing for low CMC? They have Library.
Collector Oof.
Oh, I mean, yeah, but Collector Oof isn't even like that terrifying. It's good, but it hits you too.
I know that's what I was gonna say. Like the same list. If Collector Oof was asymmetrical, then like it would see so much play. Yeah. But the fact that it's stunting the same like, let's not kid yourself. Like you're probably trying to do the same thing as your opponent. So like you're not gonna run Collector Oof. It's like a very select few decks that really want to run Collector Oof, sadly. You're absolutely right. I don't know what greens is. Free Rafellos.
Green needs one.
Free
Please.
Rafellos. Yeah. So I'm gonna go over 1 to 2 more comments. I think we'll close this one out. But I'm loving the conversation here, guys. Thanks again for lending your voices to this one. I haven't played a live game in a few years, but since before the pandemic. But I ran a lot of removal back then, and I had someone get mad at me because I would kill their threats, says Lilith. Well, that's absurd. I mean, it's like threat assessment is one thing, but if it's like an actual threat that's damning the board, yeah, like kill it, obviously. Let's see here. I concede matches because it's too boring with too few cards. Oh, with I guess Hull Breacher, maybe. Yeah, with Hull Breacher, I'm assuming. Now we need a good land hate card. Well, didn't we get Sharky? Don't people like Sharky?
Yeah, come on. You gotta sacrifice your new Dimir commander to get out of land.
Yeah. So Josh, I'll read these last few comments. Josh, Bowmasters does wonders in Esper Sentinel turn 1 plays. Yeah, you just flash it in and kill it. Exactly. So Bowmasters on a Esper draw, and you can potentially ping out 2 things early. Right. So like the happy halfling. It's the delighted halfling, and then your opponent's delighted halfling and your opponent's Esper Sentinel. Yeah, totally. That's exactly, because there's no May to that. Like, you just play it and you're like, will you pay the 1, please pay the 1. And you're like, no, I'll kill the Esper Sentinel. Crop rotation into nonsense. Yeah. Would you rather see Bowmaster or Narset hit the battlefield against you? And Narset.
Yeah, Narset Parter of Veils.
Right. Right. So each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. I would rather see Bowmaster, if I'm being honest.
I thought you'd rather see Narset because you can just punch Narset with Oswald.
As a 2/2, we're all gonna have to get in on this one.
People probably will.
Right. To be honest, that's a good question, and I'm gonna end this poll here. So 88% of you feel like we should not ban Orcish Bowmaster, but I am actually really curious. That's a good question. Before we close this one out, which would you rather see? Which would you rather see? Orcish Bowmasters? Or Narset Veils? I am curious, but I would honestly rather see Bowmasters. Like, I feel more equipped to handle Bowmasters, honestly. I don't mainline any sort of removal or anything that helps with Planeswalkers necessarily outside of damaging. The Bowmaster player is going to have like a big old... Well, that's not even true. Like, if you're stopping the draw with Narset, I'm trying to think like the match between an Orcish Bowmaster and a Narset Parter of Veils. I would say that Bowmasters is legitimately going to see more play because it's very much easier to cast, but even still. We'll end today's video on that poll, but thanks again, guys, for joining us for this episode of the Untapped podcast. Again, as I mentioned midway through our video, if you enjoyed this, please leave a like, share it with your friends. I want to grow these discussions. I'd love to have more people on here regularly to just chat with us about the game. Obviously, the times vary, but we're trying to make these happen around 10-11 a.m. every Saturday. So if you have the time off, feel free to join us. And again, I will try to get this over on Spotify and Apple soon. There's a few changes that I want to implement, not only for how the podcasts are run, but also Discord and live streams in general. We'll talk about that. Want to make these some way more interactive for you guys. There's some bots in there. But any closing thoughts, Will?
Well, I was going to say that at least you're not going to have to worry about your opponent flashing in Narset with a Wheel of Fortune on the stack, but, what's it called? The Born Upon a Wind might change that in the very near future.
Yeah, actually, in that mono blue deck. Stop, please don't.
We'll look forward to that nightmare, everybody.
Right, it's like, oh no, I don't use Born Upon a Wind to win games. I use it to punish games.
To make you suffer.
Exactly. Oh no, I want to instant speed. All of the hate, all of the destruction. Dude, that's so gross. Imagine that. Could you imagine? They're like, I'm gonna draw. Oh, look what I top decked. Right? Narset. Oh, this is good. Right? Oh my god, that's so hilarious. I would love that. But no, this is a fun one. I enjoyed this one a lot. We're going to close this out in a second. The poll, I'll let it run to the end. But again, guys, thank you so much. Stay tuned we have a top 10 Legends guide. I know the set's been officially out for a little while, but I want to get that out for you. There's going to be a guide coming up for decks that implement the One Ring well, and then you should expect some MTG Ambassador stuff soon for Commander Masters, which I'm very excited about. We can talk about that after this video, Will. And then other than that, thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us on this one, and I'll see you Wednesday. Oh, one more announcement, actually. I forgot to mention, and this is news to you, Will, too. I'm taking a mini vacation. Next week. So I'm going to try to do something Wednesday with you all, a live stream, but we will not have anything next Saturday for the next podcast because I will be out of town. I know. And the following Wednesday, like after this Wednesday, I'll be out of town. So, but I'll put up a poll, or maybe we can suggest a legend in the comments here for another brew session, but I want to do something before I head out. But guys, thanks for joining us on this one. See you on the next one.